In this video, we're going to be going over how the Threads algorithm works and how you can take advantage of it to get more views and engagement on your posts. Now, this document is actually posted by Meta themselves, explaining how the Threads algorithm works and the different factors that it uses to rank this. So this is public information. You can go to their Transparency Center and see this yourself. So before we get into the actual ranking factors, there's a couple different steps that you need to understand that the algorithm actually uses. So the first thing it does is it gathers inventory. So it takes all of the content available on Threads and content posted by accounts that you follow, and it puts all of those into one bucket. And then it looks at different signals. So the AI system uses different input signals, they call it, about the content to know if it's something that is engaging, something you're interested in, what type of content it is. So it uses all of those different signals to kind of categorize that to know, okay, this content's good, this content isn't. And then the third step is to rank the content. So after it gathers that, it knows the information about the video, what it's about, what other people are engaging with it. Is it getting good conversion rates or click-through rates or just engagement rates in general? Then it will rank that content, and that is how content is displayed to users on Threads. And then it goes into talking about those different signals that it uses to rank that content. Now, this article is aimed towards the consumer as if you yourself were looking at how this works, but you can extrapolate that and make it make sense for how the algorithm works in general when you are posting content. This is what happens for each individual user. So how the AI delivers content to users, the first thing they look at is whether or not an individual user will like a post. So there's different signals that they use to know how likely someone is to like that post. So these include things like how many posts that person's seen in their feed, how many posts they've clicked and they actually liked, and how many times they've clicked like of a specific author's post in their feed, and how many posts they've liked from this author. So to make that a lot simpler, it looks at how many posts they click on compared to how many posts they like, and they look at that rate, that percentage, and then they look at how many times they've clicked on that specific author's piece of content, and then how many times they've liked that author's piece of content and look at that percentage. So if that percentage is very high, they're probably a lot more likely to show that content to that individual again. So getting people who click on your post to like it, having that high engagement rate is one of the main signals and things they look at when it comes to ranking. Now, the next one here, how likely you are to click to view replies on a post. Some of the signals that influence this are how many times other people have clicked reply to the post, and how many replies you've seen. So how long do you spend in the replies section, and how often do you click into that? So again, they're looking at that rate of how often that person goes into the replies and then how long they stay there. And then how many times you've clicked to like the author's posts in your feed, and how long it's been since you were active on Threads. So the more active you are, probably the more likely you are to click into the replies and spend more time there. And then how many times you've clicked to like the author's posts in your feed. So again, how that is performing in your feed if they've already shown you their content. Higher click-through rates obviously going to be more beneficial. So having something to hook them in and then keep them on there will be helpful. Now, the next factor for Threads is how likely you are to follow the author of a post. So some of the things they look at to understand or estimate how likely someone would be to follow you is how many posts that person's seen in their feed, how long it's been since they were active on Threads, which authors you followed recently. So there is some recency bias in this where the people you're following more recently, you're more likely to see initially to test how they perform. So you're probably seeing those people in the feed more. And then whether or not the post was predicted to contain language that goes against community guidelines. So again, if you don't like that type of content, it's not going to show people that dislike maybe strong language or those kind of things, or just if your content is going against their community guidelines, you're probably not going to be pushed. And then how many times you've viewed the author's profile on Instagram. So it's actually pulling info from Instagram and using it on Threads to know, okay, if this is someone they like on Instagram, they're probably a lot more likely to like them on Threads. So we're going to test that content. So those are the type of things they use to know how likely you are to follow someone through a post. So if you're able to get a decently high follow rate based off of your views on a certain piece of content, that's going to be beneficial to that content getting pushed more. Now, the next factor is how likely you are to click on the profile of a post's author. So there's a couple different signals that influence this or how they use it to predict it. So the first is how many times the author's profile has been clicked, the profile click rate of the author of the post. So again, how many views are they getting versus how many people are clicking on the profile. So it's that percentage. So again, use that for your own profile. How many people are visiting it? How many people, well, first off, how many people are viewing the content, then how many people are clicking it, and then how many people are following it. So that conversion rate, that click-through rate is what they're looking at. And then whether or not the post contains language that goes against community guidelines. Again, they're probably not going to be pushing content that goes against their guidelines much compared to other content. How many times you viewed the author's profile on Instagram? Again, same kind of thing. These two are very similar. And then the number of times that people have clicked on the author's profile. Now, these two sound the same. So how many times the author's profile has been clicked, and then the number of times that people have clicked on the author's profile. I'm not sure if this one is talking about Instagram, clicking on their Instagram profile, or if they're talking about maybe how many individual clicks it has versus how many times individual people. So this could be the frequency, so how many times. So one person can click on your profile 10 times versus the unique number of people. So it could either be that or the Instagram one. And the last one, how likely you are to scroll past a post rather than engage with it. Again, directly, seems like click-through rate is one of the biggest things. If you see a post, scroll past it, it's going to be negative for the click-through rate. If you click on it, it's going to be beneficial. So the things they're looking at that predict this are the amount of times that you, a consumer, has viewed a post, how many times you've clicked to like the author's post, and how many times the post has been viewed by others. So again, this is going to be the click-through rate of individual people that are viewing the content and people who are just seeing. So they compare the average click-through rate for a post or for you as a person, because some consumers are going to be a lot more likely or a lot less likely to click on a profile. So they look at that profile average, and then they determine how great that click-through rate is based off of what would be normal for that individual, and that determines what is shown to them. So one of the biggest things you can kind of take away from this is click-through rate's really important, getting people engaged in the replies is really important, and getting people to follow your post through Threads is pretty important as well. So if you can get something that will hook them in, keep them on your content, keep them talking, something that's engaging, they're interested in, and then even just as simple as asking for a follow will greatly increase how many people are actually going to follow you. Granted, you need to be providing some value in that content. You can't just post follow me and expect that will increase it. But these are all the different factors that Threads uses to kind of determine how they rank that content and how content gets pushed.
Tired of feeling overwhelmed with marketing your small business? Let our experienced marketing team help your business grow. With personalized strategies tailored to meet your needs, we'll help you stand out in a crowded market. Contact us today for more information at foxsocialmedia.com.